Hello again. This section of the class is where things get a bit more interesting. The first part of this section deals with residential construction. It identifies the various components which make up a home. Among the various components or parts of the home, some of the most important parts are the studs, the joists, both the floor joists and the ceiling joists, the rafters, the ridge beam, and the headers. Of course, there are the obvious things like the foundation, the roof, the windows, the walls, plumbing fixtures, etc. On page 237 of the textbook, there is an excellent diagram of many of the components which make up the home. There is also a diagram you can download from the course documents file in this class. The next part of this section covers the first of three approaches to estimate value, the cost approach. The three approaches are the cost approach, the sales comparison approach, and then finally the income approach. The cost approach is the first of the three approaches, followed by the sales comparison approach. These three approaches are used to find three separate indicators of value. The cost approach is basically a way of looking at the property and adding up the two major components of the property. First and primary is the land. So we figure out the value of the land. Then next, we figure out the value of the building, or the improvements, as we call the buildings and all the other things on the dirt, the driveways, hardscape, pools, etc. We estimate how much the improvements have depreciated since they were new and subtract that from the value, giving us the depreciated improvement value. Then we simply add the two values together. Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but not much. This gives us a value via the cost approach to estimate value. That is, the land value plus the depreciated improvement value equals the value of the property. The land value can be determined by comparing it with other vacant sales, or it can be determined by finding other sales where the land is similar, but not necessarily the improvements that are on the land. Then mathematically, we can take off the value of the improvements on those properties, ending up with just the value of the land. This process is called the extraction method. Finally, this section explores the sales comparison approach to estimate value. Simply put, we gather data regarding sales and proximity of the subject property and analyze them and compare them to the components in our subject property. We compare the square footages of the properties. We try and compare the bedroom counts, the bathroom counts, whether they have pools, and similar or dissimilar amenities. We look at the quality of construction. Does it have granite counters in the kitchens and the bathrooms? Or does it have 4-inch ceramic tiles? Does it have Viking stoves or Whirlpool appliances? When it is all done, we make mathematical adjustments for these characteristics. For example, if the subject home we are appraising has a pool, and pools are worth, say, $35,000 in a particular neighborhood, then when we compare it to a comparable sale without a pool, we would add $35,000 to the value of the comparable, so that the final value that is, would give us an indication of value of $35,000 more than the comparable sold for our subject property. On the other hand, if a comparable sales had one more bedroom than our property, and bedrooms were worth, say, $15,000, then we would subtract $15,000 from the comparable sale to give us an indication of value of the subject property we are appraising. Now, having said all that, and you may want to review this part of the video again, we mathematically adjust the comparable sales to be like the subject property, which gives us an indicator of value for the subject property that we are appraising. Probably the most asked question in this course is, how do you select the comparables? What is most important? Well, there is really no right answer for each occasion every time. Each assignment may have different variables which make one comparable sale more important than another. However, the trends are that they should be close in proximity to the subject property. The sales should be close in time. Usually a 1-month-old sale is better than a 1-year-old sale. They should be similar in size, similar in quality, similar in bedroom count and bathroom count. But for all these things, once they are selected, we can make the proper adjustment so as to arrive at a final value conclusion with confidence. Well, this should provide you with a lot to think about. This is where it gets to be challenging and exciting. Make sure you stay in touch with your classmates, as this next week, we will be selecting some comparable sales to use while we begin to do our first appraisal assignment in this very class. See you next week.